Hey, Peter.
Hey.
I'm looking for a new piano. I'm thinking maybe something like this.
That's actually not that bad, but I was thinking more like this.
Yeah, that is better. I'm Adam Ennis.
Peter Martin. I'm Peter Martin. Sorry.
You're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Music commentary, conversation, commiseration, and advice coming at you.
Coming at you today, sponsored by Open Studio.
Jazz.com.
Go to openstudiojazz.com for all of your
communist.
No, it doesn't.
For company.
For all of your what does com stand for? Communications?
Company. Yeah.
Company?
Company.
Organization?
Commercial. I think it's actually
commercial. That makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's ask ChatGPT.
Ask Al Gore, who invented the internet.
He did. Go to Open Studio. We're going to tell you a little bit more, some of the exciting things happening at the end of this. But this is our main and sole, our una corda sponsor, as we like to call it. And we're really proud and excited by the community. The teachers are good, too. Is that una corda or due corda?
This is a triple A corda.
Triple A corda. Doppio. But go to openstudiojazz.com and check out everything from Ron Carter to Adam Manis coming at you. What are we talking about today on the pod, though? Welcome to the pod. First of all, we've got a bunch of new... I know I'm always saying that, but we're constantly growing. That's not true. Sometimes we plateau. But producer Caleb has been telling us lately we've been growing to love us. Folks have been growing to love us.
Didn't they already, though? Come on.
Well, but more people are growing to love us. And the idea is that we welcome in everybody to the pod here. We're also a YouTube channel, so check us out on the YouTube. Leave us a comment there, a subscribe, all that stuff. That doesn't matter, because today we're talking about pianos. Tell me about the piano you're playing right now.
So this is the Keyscape.
Because you're very proud of it.
Wing upright mono piano, which sounds like
poopy.
It doesn't sound very good. It does sound.
It sounds like a poop emoji.
But we were we've been looking at.
You make it sound good though.
Well, I do my best, but we've been looking at possibly a new piano.
Yes.
Here at Open Studio.
An
additional piano. We have the lovely Bosendorfer in there.
Yes.
And we were looking at a Steinway B that we might bring in because
we're hoping.
Friggin' gorgeous, this
That's
Steinway
right.
B. And we just thought we could talk a little bit about maybe some of the big differences between the major piano brands, at least in our experience, and what you might look for in a piano.
And we're going to present this kind of in a what bears are best, brown bear, grizzly bear, or polar bear. So this is going to be what piano is best. Answer? No, we're not going to do it like that?
I mean, it's a preference though, isn't it? I
Yes.
mean, everybody has their preference.
What's better, a Story and Clark upright or a beautiful brand new Steinway D from the Hamburg factory?
Well, it depends. Actually,
it though?
It doesn't depend in that case. No, obviously.
But we're going to be throwing out some pianos that are more in the same kind of general category, I think more personal preference. All great pianos, though, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start first with let's start with our preferred pianos, because it doesn't have to be the best. But if I'm going to walk into a theater for the first time for a gig.
Yes.
And I see a Steinway B on stage.
I see with my little eye.
I'm a little excited.
I spy.
I'm a little relieved. I'm like, okay.
Yep.
Now, it depends. It could be a crappy Steinway that's in bad shape and is beat up and hasn't been taken care of. But if it's a nice place that is somewhat, well taken care of, you can kind of assume maybe that's going to be a good Steinway.
Yeah.
And then if it is a decent Steinway, even a decent Steinway at a theater stage,
you're
like, okay, this is going to be a really lovely evening.
Steinways are known for their, obviously the brand name. I think it's the most recognizable brand name it's the Cadillac of piano names, right?
Yeah.
But like the way we used to talk about Cadillac. But I think it's also, they're known for their concert size pianos, which is traditionally your 7-foot or your 9 foot.
Right.
There's been some other ones, but that's the B, which is the 7 foot, and the D, which is the 9 foot, and they're actually both a little bit smaller than that, but that's what they're commonly referred to.
And those are probably both the most recorded, especially in jazz, the most recorded pianos that you might hear. Especially the B is very good for a studio size.
It's really good. And I mean, neither one of those instruments is really home sized, I would say. I did have a B for a while on loan in our house, and it was just, I couldn't even open it up because we live in the living room wasn't teeny, but it definitely wasn't.
They're loud, man.
They're loud. There's a lot of power. They're meant for the concert hall. They're considered concert grands at that size.
Well, the B we were looking at last week was in someone's home, in like their little music studio. This is a piano teacher who has this B. And it was too loud in that room. It was too loud. It was too much piano for the room.
Too much piano.
For sure.
So that's another thing that you always, I think, want to think about before we even get down to breaking down the different brands is you got to get the right piano for the situation.
Absolutely.
This is not like getting a violin or a trumpet or something where you can move it around and play it outside. It's going to sit in one place.
Yep.
It's going to live in one place. So you got to think about, is it a studio situation? Is it a home situation for most people? Or is it a home studio situation? If you're blessed with that kind of a setup, that's going to be a very specific kind of requirement. Do you want something that's going to be able to be a little bit more durable in terms of like, is it being played heavy constantly, like a jazz club, for instance, every night, kind of like performance situation where it's going to be played heavier than solo piano?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So just before we even get into the other brands, but about the sizes. So I think for a club, for me, the 7 foot, no matter what the brand is the right size. Because if you can have more than say 75 or 100 people in a club, it's big enough that's going to fill the room without you having to really reinforce it a ton, and then you get a really thin bass sound. Yeah, the chords sound kind of thin and tacky. A nice 7 foot piano in a sort of medium-sized club is a right fit. For a larger stage, like anything that can hold more than, I would say, like 300 or 400 people, I like a 9 foot piano, man, because it's for the same reasons. Like especially if it's like a theater situation where there's very high ceilings and it's a big room, having that big board really helps so that you're not pushing. That you can really play in a way that is dynamically satisfying to you and the audience, and that you still get a nice big tone and sound.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that there's probably some exceptions for smaller concert halls if the sound is really good, like if there's a great resonance.
Older concert halls, for sure.
And we talk about the Sheldon Concert Hall around the corner from here. They've always had Bs in there that work really well, even though it's not a team. I mean, it's like a
750.
But again, you have to. I think the size of the stage matters too.
That's true,
because you don't want to have just physically. Sometimes I find like a 9 foot Steinway or like a Bosendorfer or a Fazioli, which actually make instruments larger. Their largest concert
10, 12 feet or something. Yeah.
You don't want to take up so much of the stage where it could get in the way of sort of the connection and intimacy between the players sometimes, even if the hall can accommodate that much sound.
That's true. A more intimate hall with a smaller stage would be as perfect. That's true. Yeah. I guess I was thinking more of like the sort of modern university hall. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Enormous stage that can be used for plays and stuff and orchestras.
But I find too, sometimes I was in situations that years ago when I was playing with the Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Here we go.
Orchestra. Ever heard of that? But like, it was almost always these larger halls, but not always huge halls, but but they'd always have a 9 foot piano in there, which was great. But with a big band, sometimes you're physically separated. It's like harder to like orient the piano in a way that you don't have that connection with the rhythm section sometimes. Yeah. Unless you go, Oscar Peterson or Ahmad Jamal trio style where your back is kind of there. But I don't know. Sometimes the 9 foot can physically separate you from.
It's too big
in a way.
Yeah. Depending on the situation. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about our home setup? So again, I think it depends on the room. I think for a larger living room, you could get away with a 7 foot piano. Yeah. Like for if you have a big home with a big living room,
especially some high ceilings,
you get a 7 foot piano there. Like you're not going to want to go full stick on it all the time, probably.
And you're probably going to have to do some like either thick draperies or rugs or something, and get your corners, like some sound absorption, so you don't get the weird corners bouncing, the sound bouncing back from the corners in a weird way. You really have to try it out first, though, to see what's going to work.
Maybe a medium-sized living room in sort of an older home, or like a New York brownstone style living room. Yeah. Like I honestly, I don't think, for me personally, I've never heard a grand that's under 5'9" that sounds good.
I know. I agree.
Like I won't go under 6 foot, really. If you really want some, even if it's a smaller room, like even if you have it in a large bedroom or something, 6 foot should be the minimum for me. Like I've never heard a 5'3", 5'5", 5'7" piano that sounds decent.
Right. And I was just trying to look here.
I'd rather get a large upright before that, honestly.
Well, you know what? So at home now, I have a Steinway S, and I was just thinking this was bigger. This is actually 5'1".
What?
I don't know if that's accurate.
That can't be.
And I like
this.
That.
Is your brown Steinway?
Yeah.
No.
That's what it says. Steinway S grand piano, length 5'1". I mean, they probably call it 5'6" or 5'4" because they're always adding a little bit. Well, I mean,
really 5 foot.
This is not ChatGPT. This is the.
I got a chat.
155 centimeters.
It's too short.
It is, but you know what? For the room, have you seen the room?
You have it in a very small room.
It's actually great, and even that piano, I have to keep the lid down most of the time because I don't have great sound absorbing in there.
Yeah.
But that's a solid little piano. I mean, Steinways, although that's what we started saying, they're known for their concert grands. They make some excellent smaller pianos as well, even uprights. I don't think they're making them anymore, but I played some older Steinway uprights that are really nice.
I think an upright in a smaller room can be great. I don't actually love most spinet uprights. I like my uprights a little bit taller as well. I have a Yamaha, I have a Ballwin. Sorry. I love a Yamaha, the studio apartment Yamaha with the damper pedal in the middle that brings down the felt. But I like my uprights like my power forwards in the NBA, tall and strong and effective. That's right.
Yeah.
You want it to. You want a big soundboard so that you can have some control over the tone. And the upright, what's great about that is it can't be too big of a soundboard because unless it's like a big upright grand.
Well, but like I remember having this like 54-inch. Is that kind of the tall? Like a Young Chang actually back in the 90s in New Orleans, an upright. That thing was good. That was a strong piano.
Yeah, man.
But if you think about those big uprights, the soundboard and the spacing on them and the scaling of them is very similar to a baby grand. Sometimes even bigger.
When I first started playing with the trio at this place Thurman's here in St. Louis, Joe Jackson from Jackson Pianos put an ancient Steinway upright. That was huge.
Oh, I remember that
and like a tank. It was so heavy.
Didn't I break a hammer on it?
You did break a hammer on it. It sounded amazing though. Yeah. I mean, it sounded like an upright, but it sounded. I mean.
It sounded better than that.
It sounded more like this, but that was a great piano.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk more about brands because here in the studio we use a Bosendorfer, and honestly, this is the most time I've spent with the Bosendorfer.
Yes.
I've seen them on gigs, of course, but they're not common here in America.
No. I mean, they're around and people know them, and you can certainly buy them. I love them. I can't even say I prefer. I mean, Steinway. I'm a Steinway artist. I love Steinways. That's my jam. That's what I have at home. But Bosendorfer is a very different kind of instrument. And when you look at it and understand how it's constructed, it's not, a lot of the Yamaha concert grands, I should know this better, but I feel like, well, they definitely feel like and look like they're modeled closer after a Steinway. Bosendorfer is not copying a Steinway.
It's its own thing.
It's its own thing, and I love that. It's got its own personality. It's not for everybody.
It's hard for me. It's hard to play because I don't think I have a reference for it.
Yeah, you have to kind of just put yourself in another place. But I look at it like just as a different, like you drive a Cadillac, really Cadillac, and then you go to a Mercedes. It's very different. They're both maybe luxury car. I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not.
Yeah.
Are they luxury? I guess.
I mean, I don't
Cadillac
think
is
that's
the
much
Cadillac
of a competition
of Cadillacs.
in the modern era, honestly.
But maybe like BMW to Audi. I don't know. Like they can be very different.
Yeah, it's a whole different
price
feel.
point. Yeah. But I mean, obviously Bosendorfer. I mean, you talk about your three really premium priced and quality handmade instruments: Bosendorfer, Steinway, and Fazioli, which I wouldn't say is mass market, but it is available everywhere now.
You can get one.
You got
enough bread.
Yeah, you're going to pay a little more.
I'll say about our Bosey here, I don't.
And I should say Yamaha too, because they're larger grands that are handmade or in that same category.
Well, I want to talk about Yamaha because that's probably the piano, other than Steinway, we've all had the most experience with, probably around the world.
Yep.
But so the Bosendorfer is interesting because when I hear you play the one that we have, and like I said, this is really the only one that I've spent significant time with, so I don't feel like I have a real feel for the brand at all.
Yeah.
But when I hear you play it, I love it. And then when I try to play it, I'm like, I can't play this freaking thing. Like I can't get around on it in a way that I'm comfortable. I feel somehow exposed on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it feels very immediate somehow in a way that like Steinway gives me this like I can hide a little bit. I can cushion my way through. You know what I mean? Like not hide, but like the Bosendorfer, the action is so fast.
Yeah, the action's fast and different. Like and from a Steinway action and from a Yamaha, and it's the sound. I mean, I always think like don't underestimate the sound and how we respond to that, both as you're evaluating an instrument. And this really goes beyond brand, because you could be like, okay, so they're saying Steinways are the best, and then there's a lot of flat Steinways, the ones that are not set up correctly, even from the factory. I mean, it's a big shout out to Steinway, but sometimes, or when they're being transported, if you don't have a local technician that really gets the regulation right before it, or really after it comes into your home, that's a big thing, for the more nuanced player.
I want to talk about that a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just to say that like how your visceral reaction to the sound of the instrument, beyond just kind of adjustments that need to be made, like you've got to sit and play the piano and be like moved by it, and you might not be comfortable with it, it might be like, wow, this action is really stiff. A lot of that stuff can be adjusted, but if the sound, you don't love the sound, something about the soul of the sound.
Well, this is what I was
That's going to
say.
be hard to change.
So one of the things with the Steinway that we just looked at, and we actually looked at this piano maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't get it then, and then a pandemic happens. But we're looking at it again, and Did the piano get COVID? Is that what you're saying? No.
We were afraid to touch it?
I had memories of the piano that were incredibly fond from our visit out there 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's because the soul of the piano, the sound of it, the soundboard itself it's such a good, strong vibe. I mean, we just tested it out there with Cheryl. The decay of the sound was like massive. Like,
this is
puts it to shame. Like, it's horrible. But it was so round and deep and big, the sound. It was so good. Now, let's talk a little bit about, if you have a piano, what are some things that you're looking for? Because you're right. Like, the one thing that really can't be adjusted from the instrument is that soundboard. Like, you can't, I mean, I'm sure there are things you can do to make it somewhat better, but the soul of the piano, the tone of it is based on the piece of wood that is resonating in there.
Right.
And that is kind of, set. There's not a lot you can do for very cheaply besides just get a whole new piano.
Right. And I think, my understanding is that that's one of the most temperamental, to weather, to humidity.
Yeah.
Even more so than everyone's always worrying about the temperature. It's like the humidity, because that's a huge chunk of wood.
Yep.
And just like a tree or any other kind of that type of wood, it's susceptible to.
It's a very dense piece of wood as well.
Yeah, with humidity, and you don't want it to be changing a lot. So I think there are things that can be out of whack that would keep you from like being able to identify the real true sound of the instrument. So we don't want to make it like, oh, no matter what's happening. I mean, like if the regulation is so often strings are popped and everything, you're not going to be able to get to the soul of the instrument. Any of that stuff can be repaired. I think that's what you're kind of referencing. Whereas the soundboard, it can be replaced. That's pretty much all you can do.
Yeah, this Steinway B that we were looking at, the sound, the soul of it, the sound of it was so intense and beautiful. But it had some irregularities in the action.
Yeah.
There was some unevenness in the dampers. There was some unevenness in the bass range of the keys.
Yeah.
And so, but
that's more adjustments that we think could be taken care of.
Right. Our piano.
It's not a new piano. We're not looking at a new piano.
Yeah, it's not new. Our piano tech Cheryl was like, don't worry about that. That's something that I'm going to spend a couple days with.
Right.
Making that whatever you want, essentially.
But see, most people don't do that, and they don't like.
That's called regulation, by the way.
Right.
Super important, and most people never do it.
Most people never do it, and for most people, what they're doing with their piano, they don't need to.
They just tune it once a year, maybe.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah. And most people aren't going to necessarily appreciate or be able to tell the difference, which is fine.
But before you go buy a new piano, go get it tuned and regulated by a really great piano tech.
That's right.
And you might have a new piano.
Yeah, yeah.
So one more I want to talk about, Peter, is the Yamaha, because it's the most prolific piano. It's in like every other club and venue and theater.
And they've had to have made more pianos than anybody.
I mean, it's Yamaha. They've made more motorcycles and leaf blowers and pianos.
They make ramen noodles, the Yamaha Corporation. I'm not kidding.
It's insane, man.
Yeah.
But they make
drums.
They make a damn fine piano.
They make an incredible piano.
Like there are... another one is if I show up at a club and I see a 7-foot Yamaha, I'm like, okay, like this is going to be
there's a standard that's going to, and it can really, I really believe, well, I know I've played some Yamahas. I'm trying to think like 7 foots. I don't know, but for sure the 9 foots, which is, there's not a lot of them. And for a long time, they may still be, they're pretty much in the same price range of a Steinway and Bosendorfer. The 9-foot handmade, I forget the name of it, but it's the handmade concert.
It's a beautiful piano.
It's a beautiful piano, every bit on the level and a competitor to these to the top brands.
But the mass-produced, the C7s?
Yeah. No, they're incredible. They're consistent. A lot of, technicians and players will say that for certain studio situations, the way they record is actually superior to anything.
Yeah.
They're more stable. They've been known to be more stable in terms of tuning and things like that. So I think that, I've had many happy times with Yamaha. I got a chance to open for... this was crazy. The first time I really met Chick Corea back in the mid-'90s when I was playing with Joshua Redman, he was playing solo piano on this tour for like a week in Italy, and he opened for us. We were really opening for him, but Chick Corea's like, I'm going to play first because you guys are a whole band. It doesn't make sense. And that's just the way he was. But I got to hang with him, have dinner with him almost every night, and play on this Yamaha beautiful 9-foot-ish concert grand with one of Yamaha's top Japanese technicians that was traveling with them and to each of the venues. They're bringing the piano, and they'd have another piano, and Chick was just like, Peter, if you want to play this, you're welcome to it. And I was like, oh, I'd be honored, of course.
Yeah.
And so I played on this piano each night, set up. Now, this is a little bit of an unrealistic thing. You've got one of the best technicians in the world.
Yeah.
Setting up one of the best pianos for one of the best pianists.
Treat
moving
yourself,
it
man.
around.
Treat yourself.
Yeah.
And
so that's not to say that, basically you're never going to play a Yamaha it's set up as well as that.
That's so great, though.
But
man. That's why Chick sounds so good, man. That's why we were talking about.
No, hold on. He'd sound great. Wait, what do you say?
But he sounds great anyway. But it's the details like that. It's why Keith Jarrett also traveled around with the piano.
So you're saying if they didn't have a great piano, they wouldn't sound so good?
No, I'm saying that even though they sound amazing on anything, they still require this top level instrument because they know
it pushes it over there.
Like how can Chick sound that much better at this point? Right. You have to even up your tools that you're using. So.
And then later, I got a chance to play. Well, the first time I played a Fazioli was in 1994.
That's a great.
So Fazioli is an Italian maker that is really a bespoke,
like the opposite of Yamaha.
Yeah. And we talk about although they're making more than they've ever had, and I want to say, did he say they were making 500 or 100 a year? It was I think it was maybe 100. This is a couple. That would be a lot. When I got to meet Paolo Fazioli, he came to a gig we were doing because we were kind of we're in Cremona, Italy, which is right up the road from where his factory is in northern.
So for those who don't know what Faziolis are and the reputation, why don't you tell them?
Yeah. Well, Faziolis are this just tiny maker that got this huge kind of reputation very quickly because the pianos are amazing. They have they're incredible sounding. They feel like a Fazioli. That's the first piano I ever played where I was like, I can do things on this piano I can't do on any other piano. Technically, I could execute things. It's that well set. I mean, the sound is amazing. You can hear as a listener, but there's also something that's just incredible. So apparently, the first time Herbie Hancock played it, he was like, "Wow, I love this. I want to buy one." And or he was just like, I want one. And the Fazioli was such a small company, they couldn't even give him one. He's like, no, I want to buy one. He bought one, and then that certainly put them on the map. But even before that, I remember in 1994 playing on a Fazioli at the Umbria Jazz Festival in Perugia. And Paolo Fazioli was there. He was a lot younger, and he'd been making pianos. It was known, but I don't think it was really known outside of Italy. And he was just placing them. He had a relationship with the folks at the festival. But now they're all around the world. You can buy them anywhere. They're super expensive, more than Yamaha. I mean, more than Yamahas, more than Steinways, more than Bosendorfers. They're like the most expensive pianos, but they're just amazing. And they're popping up at some really good concert halls. I think Juilliard has a couple now. Lincoln Center has at least one. So they're not only around, but they're making a little bit of inroads because great classical artists, great jazz artists, Herbie Hancock being, of course, the most prominent, is really put them on the map. And I mean, look, you go back to 94, what is that, 30 years? I mean, it's not an overnight sensation at all, but those are just incredible pianos.
I've only got
Why
to
aren't we getting one of those in here?
We should be getting one of those in there.
Yeah.
I've only played one great pianist here, classical pianist Peter Henderson owns one.
Yes.
I think a 6-foot one.
That's the only one I'm sure there's other ones around St. Louis, but that's the only one I know is in a home here at least.
Dude, it sounds so amazing. Talk about a great home piano.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. We should go do an episode from Peter's house.
Yeah.
And just play the Fazioli.
But you say, Pete, get out.
That's right.
Give us your Fazioli.
Well, this is really fun, man.
Yeah.
This is pianists are not known for gear talk because, we're talking about $120,000 to $400,000 instruments here.
Exactly.
So it's tough.
We'll do keyboards on a future episode.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm not I have some keyboards, but I'm not a huge gearhead with keyboards. They're guys who are
it would be fun to talk about.
I do. I love
Nord.
I love the synth. I have this Nord. I'm kind of mad about it.
You want to know what ChatGPT says with the top piano companies?
Hit me.
Number 1, Steinway & Sons.
Yep.
Number 2, Yamaha.
Yep.
Number 3, Kawai, which we didn't mention.
Well, I've had hit or miss experiences with Kawai.
Mason and Hamlin is not on here, but that's a piano that I used to really like.
People who
Glenn Gould loved them.
People who like Mason and Hamlin's love Mason and Hamlin's.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Kawai, I've had some amazing experiences on a Kawai, and I've had some, I don't know if it was consistent for a while.
4, Baldwin.
Baldwin, I've had some horrible experiences on because they're so old now.
They are old.
They stopped making them years ago. Like
they used to make a great teeny spin. I thought they made the best spin it.
The Acrosonic, man.
The Acrosonic.
Baldwin Acrosonic is by the way, go buy yourself a Baldwin Acrosonic. If you
for
have
$100
for like $1,000, you can get this beautiful, soulful little piano, usually made in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
And put it on. If you have a free wall, go get a Baldwin Acrosonic, paint it some cool colors.
I mean, how many Baldwin Acrosonics over the years have you
they're so
put
much
onto the
fun.
Back of a pickup truck and moved from somewhere?
Oh my God! They're so much fun.
Yeah.
They sound great and they're fun to play.
Number 5, Bosendorfer. Number 6, Fazioli. I don't think this is in order of, certainly not price, but that's ChatGPT throwing something out there.
All right, before we go, I have a ChatGPT for you. You ready?
Yeah.
Peter Martin is a jazz pianist, composer.
Wait, what'd you ask it?
I asked it. I just put in Peter Martin pianist, and it says, I'm familiar with the name Peter Martin as a jazz pianist, composer, and educator. He was born on August 30th, 1970. Nope. In St. Louis, Missouri.
Nope. I was 1970 is correct, but the rest, and August, actually.
And began, and what was...
And not in St. Louis, the 17th.
17th. And began playing the piano at a young age. He studied at the Juilliard School and has since performed with many renowned jazz musicians such as Chris Bodie.
No, it said jazz musicians.
Wynton Marsalis.
Yes.
And Diane Reeves. Peter Martin has released several albums as a band leader, including Something Unexpected.
That's correct.
And In the PM.
Yes.
He is also known for his work as a signed man on many recordings, including those by Joshua Redman and Betty Carter.
Yes. No, I never recorded with
I didn't
Betty
think you
Carter.
recorded
I played
with
with her, but...
Besides his performing career, Peter Martin is also an educator, having served on the faculty of the Juilliard School.
Not true.
And the Jazz Studies program at Washington University in St. Louis.
Definitely not true. There is no jazz studies department.
He has also conducted numerous...
You know what's funny about that? But Washington University is about a half a mile from my house.
I know.
So ChatGPT is kind of weird.
Overall, Peter Martin is a respected figure in the jazz world, known for his virtuosity, creativity, and dedication to the art form. I would say all that's true. Yeah.
Dedication, yes.
And he's also the CEO of Open Studio, which is the sponsor of this podcast. If you want to go on a deeper dive of anything we're talking about here, go to openstudiojazz.com. Peter... You know, we got a new course from Chris Parks in the works. Chris Parks has been a game changer. If you don't know Chris Parks' YouTube channel, Things I Learned from Barry Harris, just stop listening to this. Go check out that YouTube channel. It's all these beautiful little theory nuggets. You know, Chris studied with Barry Harris for decades.
Does he know Barry Harris? Did he know Barry Harris?
Yeah, they were.
I didn't know that.
They were like...
I'm making a joke.
Yeah, no, it's his whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing. He's one of the greatest, I think, educators of Barry's systems that there is, and we're so proud that he's here with us at Open Studio Pro. He teaches 5 different classes now at Open Studio Pro, 3 in the afternoon and 2 in the evenings during the week, and he's
one of our most beloved
they love
teachers.
Him over there. I get comments on my YouTube videos like, you should be more like Chris Parks. And like, I gotta be me. I gotta be me.
He has a great video on our Open Studio YouTube channel as well.
He does.
Well, I just asked ChatGPT what is the best online jazz education community?
Okay.
And it gave 4, of which number 2
is
Open Studio. Open Studio offers a wide range of online jazz courses taught by top-notch jazz musicians, including Peter Martin, Christian McBride, and Gregory Hutchinson. Members have access to hundreds of video lessons. That's a lie. They have thousands.
Yep.
Play-along tracks. That is true. And other resources. Ultimately, the best online jazz education community for you will depend on your goals, learning style, and budget. It's a good idea to explore each of these options and others to find out the one that best fits your needs. OpenStudioJazz.com.
And until next time,
you'll hear it.
I'm in Steamboat Springs, Colorado currently. I'm in Indianapolis.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Andrew, hi.
Because I feel inspired to play something else from your playing.
Okay, that's great.
I think using the metronome is a great tool, but it's not the only tool.
All of the answers are really in the music.
What does it mean to live in a groove, be in a groove?
Until next time, happy practicing.